The Eliminator unveiled recently, with 2024 being its first model year, and in a lot of the reviews I'm seeing, they wonder, why not, for about $1,000 more, get 200 extra cc's and get a Vulcan S? I can answer that because my wife couldn't get a Vulcan S and got this instead. It's a better bike for her, this is the better bike for me. We'll go into the differences, and you'll see that there are more than other reviewers are letting on. First reason is going to be style. If you buy a bike based on what you like looking at, you can have your preference. There's no one right answer here. This looks like a standard Japanese motorcycle from the 70s and 80s, modernized. It's got a good look to it. This also has a good look to it, but it looks like a Japanese take on an American classic cruiser, then modernized. The other important thing to note is that the spec pages don't tell you the whole truth. So, whereas the general consensus is this has 48, 49 horsepower, and this has 61 or 62, the fact that this is over 100 pounds lighter means that you can do the math and find out that you're putting fewer pounds on each horse on this one, the weaker one. I did the math. Vulcan S, 491.6 pounds, 61 horsepower. That's 8.05 pounds on the back of every horse. 385.9 pounds and 49 horsepower is 7.87 pounds on the back of every horse. That's not a huge difference, but when you see the other reviewers, they talk about it's got less horsepower, not effectively. And the lighter weight of the Eliminator can be a benefit in its own right, because this is such a light bike, so easy to pick up and fling around, because it's closer in weight to a sport bike than a cruiser anyway. The Vulcan S, on the other hand, is pushing 500 pounds the minute you look at it and fill it with fuel. It's not heavy in the grander scheme of things, but for this class of motorcycle, I'd definitely put it on the higher end. It's got the power to move itself, for sure, I'm not saying it doesn't, but a newer rider might feel more comfortable on the lighter bike. Another difference between these two bikes is technology. With this one coming out in 2015, the display is half LCD and half an analog gauge, kind of showing its age now. You don't get a whole lot to play with, no connectivity app. It's fine, and it's a cruiser, so it gets a pass, but just know that the Eliminator is going to feel higher tech. It's got a full LCD gauge. This one's going to have the Rideology app, which can keep your maintenance log, track your fuel level, fuel economy, show your rides, even what gear you were in. It's a lot more interconnected, a lot more modern in that regard. If you get the SE version, you get a USB charger on the handlebar here. This one's going to be all LED, straight from the factory. This has originally only an LED tail light, halogen headlight, halogen turn signals. And of course I can't show you because I replaced the halogen headlight since, but you can still see that my Parker light is a halogen. Just trust me, it was halogen originally. Another major difference is the riding position. The Eliminator is mid-control, slightly forward, but still mid-control, whereas the Vulcan is forward. And you get a brake pedal the size of Kansas. Here, more in line with being a standard, you get a brake pedal the size of Rhode Island. Another difference is that the Eliminator has passenger accommodations from the factory. We didn't have to install these pegs or this rear seat, whereas on the Vulcan S, it ships, not that I can show you here because I have changed things, but it ships with a solo seat, and this piece of subframe has to be ordered separately and installed. It would be just this, nowhere to put your pegs. So to get a bike and take a passenger immediately out of the gate, you're gonna want this one. But to get a bike and change some things up to make it more passenger friendly, I would say it's the weightier, longer bike with the monoshock. Just a shame it didn't come that way. So that said, which riders might choose which bike? Well, for a beginner, I think you should steer more toward the Eliminator. It's plenty fast, and that neutral riding position feels natural, it's confidence inspiring, you get to hug the tank, and it's very nimble, versus the relaxed riding position you get on your Vulcan, which is good, but maybe when you just start out, sitting relaxed doesn't make you relaxed. People who like the looks of this like classic Japanese retro, modernified, Eliminator. People who like a Japanese take on an American cruiser, Vulcan S. People who like to stand on the pegs, it's this one all the way. Because standing on the pegs of this one is a bit of an awkward ordeal. And both bikes have the power, they have the speed to go on the highway. But this one has a factory optioned windshield. It's going to block a lot of the wind, which either one you're going to suffer from. Not great highway machines, but it's not really their point. And this one's weight and wheelbase length just gives it that oomph to go on the highway just a bit better. But both can do it when you need it. Another thing to note is that both of these bikes have Ergo Fit. Check with your dealer when you get this thing new, because Kawasaki was offering a rebate so that essentially you get your bike fit to you at no additional cost to you, but they can change the angle of the handlebars, they can get you reduced reach handlebars that come a little further back to you, 3 different seat types, putting you, closer or further from the tank and the pegs can be moved as well. Same for the Vulcan S. My wife actually couldn't reach the shifter in its position that it was right for me. Because it's so forward, her leg was just outstretched as it was, and was just kind of doing this. So the Eliminator was therefore her bike of choice. So here you see how someone would look if they were 5'1" on the Eliminator. Quite easy to reach the ground, pronounced bend in the leg. Just a comfortable riding position, pretty neutral. And then you'll see how someone will look if they're 5'8" and on the Vulcan S, reaching the ground with a bend in their leg. So anyone around my height would have no problem either. Now you see another advantage of the Eliminator, which is standing on the pegs as you go over the railroad tracks here. You can see she got some distance on me because I slowed down. As I've shown you, standing on the pegs is not an easy ordeal. This is the first person view of that same scene, standing on the pegs, going right over, and none of the bump transferred to the rider because she used her legs as an additional shock absorber in a way. Now you'll see that the Vulcan S has plenty of passing power. If you look at the tachometer, that's not even where it makes the majority of its power. Same for the Eliminator, also at low RPM. Now these engines are tuned to have more torque than their sport bike counterparts, so they do still have that torque to get up and go at the low RPMs, but if you want to really rev them out to their power band, that's when you'll really make power. It was just unnecessary to do it there. The power profile is very similar on both of these bikes because they're both parallel twins with 180-degree cranks. Now, earlier in the video, I kind of made it sound as though the Vulcan S wasn't nimble, and here you see it is. I'm flicking it around with ease, and she's flicking her bike around as well because it's even lighter, but this is a new bike to her, so that's why she's not doing it as emphasizedly. Another thing I just wanted to clarify was when I stated that the relaxed riding position the Vulcan S gives you might not make you relaxed as a new rider. The difference being that the standard, as you see in frame here, with feet down, keeps your thighs against the tank. You just feel as though you're gripping the motorcycle a little better, and the control is more instinctual. You'll find mid-control types on a lot more motorcycles, from dual sports to nakeds, whereas forward controls are generally only found on cruisers. Both of Kawasaki's sport cruisers feel at home in these winding back roads where they're nowhere close to scraping their pegs when going a reasonable speed. As both bikes have sport bike derived engines, they'll have powerful engine braking you can use before sharper turns such as this one, but it's worth noting that only the Eliminator has a slipper clutch, a nice feature to have for a newer rider or someone who likes to push things to the extreme. Lastly, in this clip, just watch the tack here. It proves that the Eliminator, despite being the smaller and lower horsepower bike, has absolutely no problem with daily commutes here, because this is just accelerating the speed, not struggling whatsoever. Ultimately, putting a Ninja-derived engine in a cruiser body twice is going to make two similar bikes, but there are enough differences, from the riding position, the styling, and the available tech, that these two feel distinct from one another, with characters each their own to cater to different riders, and neither feel like a derivative. So I think a lot of reviews have kind of relegated this to the pointless one when this is available, and that's not the case. So I hope my video kind of explained why this one's valid, but why either could be the choice for you. Okay, bye.
Oh wait, were you not recording that whole time?
Oh, I swear I was.
How do you go and look at them? I don't know if you were recording.
You swipe up from the bottom. I can't put my bike down here. Wait. Is my headlight on?
No.
No?
On, and I saw a little line. There's a snapping turtle. Oh, that's creepy.
Stay out of my shed.